I was born in a middle-class French family, typical middle class. My mother was a seamstress. She's still alive. She's a seamstress. She doesn't work anymore. She's 80 years old. My father was a sales rep, and I have 3 sisters. And even if I'm born in Paris, I was not raised at all in Paris. I just spent 6 months of my life in Paris at the beginning when I was a baby, and then my parents would move in some countryside in France and small towns. And I grew up in a very small town in France of 8,000 people called Loudun. It's a little town. There's nothing to do here, but it's the town of my youth. And it's very funny because everybody thinks I've been a Parisian all my life. No, this is not true. I was raised in a small town, and a lot of my friends are still living there. I had one thing that I was doing very young is that I was passionate with rock and roll. So I've always been a musician, specifically a drummer. I play the drums pretty decently. I'm not a professional drummer, but I always had some garage bands. So I've been depending at 13, I was the singer, and then I went to bass player, and then I played the drums a little bit, and that was my passion. I wanted to be a rock star. Problem is that being a rock star in Loudun was tough, because finding the city was tough already. And but so I developed this sense of this artistic sense. And I didn't go to college. I have my high school degree, what we call baccalaureate in French. And then I just did, I don't know how you call this in America, associate college, which is only 2 years. And I studied international commerce. So I was supposed, my destiny was to be an export manager, or maybe an international banker, associate. And look at me. Do I look like a banker? No, I don't. And so when I was 19 years old, I decided to spread my wings, and I started in the music industry, and I opened a recording studio. I was 19 years old. It didn't go very well. It was difficult. Music industry was difficult. I was 19. My head was full of dreams, but I had fun. And so I did this for a couple of years, and then eventually I went to Paris. And I arrived in Paris, I was 21 years old or 22 years old, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted. I know exactly what I wanted to do. I said, I'm an artist. And but it's when you say that in Paris, and when you're alone, when you don't know many people in Paris, and you go to an advertising agency or I wanted to work in special events, and that was the booming industry. And I was introducing myself, say, I'm an artist, I can write, I can direct, I can do a lot of things, I can produce music, but everybody was laughing a little bit at me. So my first job was, I started to translate menus for restaurants. And all these two, I'm not going to tell you all my life, but to make a long story short, I've never been a salary of anybody. I've always been on my own, working as a freelance. And I made a long career in the special event and in the film industry, as a producer, as a stage manager, as a director. And so I made a long career until 2009. So I've been working for the French Minister of Culture in China. I did some kind of interesting things in my life. But in 2009, I was harassed by all this work with all these meetings. I made a lot of film for the pharmaceutical industry. And after this exhausting life, because being an artist and making your living as an artist constantly, I wrote a feature film, I wrote a few books, and so it was an exhausting life. I decided that my passion was tailoring because I was dressing bespoke, but as a client at the beginning, since 2006 and 2007 at Chiffonelli in Paris. And I started a small blog in 2009, Parisian Gentleman, and it was really some kind of godsend. Because I don't even know why I did this. It was just I wanted to share a little bit of my knowledge on the subject, because I couldn't find anything in the magazines. Nobody was talking about bespoke, about tailoring, about the real thing. You know why? It's very easy to explain. Is that the big magazines, this kind of subject was under the responsibility of one journalist who had to also study wine and watch and yachts and hotels and alcohol. Well, you can't be a specialist in everything. So I decided to focus only, and I was very surprised because Parisian Gentleman took off very quickly. 2010, we were speaking already to 20 to 30,000 people per month, which was a kind of an audience. And then it developed to become what it became, that is to say, one of the most important menswear blog in the world, specifically on bespoke tailoring and on artisanship. Not only on bespoke, because we are a little bit broader, but our idea is to go beyond only subject of clothing and to go on the subject of elegance. We believe strongly that this world needs beauty, that beauty is not a shallow subject, that you can find a lot of interesting thing, transcendental, even spiritual thing in beauty. And we believe at Parisian Gentleman that where some people were just technically explained how to dress well, how to be at your best, we think we are preaching. We believe with my team, we believe with my wife, Sonia, who works with me, we believe with my son, we believe with all the people that are working around Parisian Gentleman and Sartorial Talks now, that this world needs more beauty and a little bit of good behavior, kindness, elegance will really has the power to change the world. My first book is a coffee table book. But I have to say that normally a coffee table book is a book where you mainly look at pictures, right? And you don't really read the text. My first book is an 80,000 word book, so it's a real book. And I have the weakness to believe that people also read what I wrote in this book and not only look at the picture. I explain you why, because when I wrote this book, I did it with the idea of what if I write these words without pictures. So I wanted my text to be self-sufficient. That is to say that when I was writing about, I don't know, about Pierre Cortet or about Berluti or about Chiffonelli or about Comes de Luca, I wanted my words to tell a story that will live by itself and that wasn't requiring any pictures. Of course, we have wonderful pictures and photography by my friend Andy Jura, which is a very talented photography. So this first book is a book that I wanted to publish, to right a wrong. Because everybody speaks about Paris for women's fashion. You know, Paris, it's the house of Chanel and Christian Dior and Yves Saint Laurent, and this is the woman fashion. This is the international capital of woman fashion. But I wanted also to unveil another part of our national treasure. Because in France, we also have great artisan, great shoemaker, great shirt makers. One of the oldest shirt makers in the world, Charvet. We have one of the best tailors in the world, Chiffonelli, Comes de Luca. We have a tradition also for men that we've been, that was all a little bit offset by the immensity of reputation of the woman fashion. And that was my idea with the Parisian Gentleman, is to really correct this wrong and show to the world that France and Paris has a stylistic heritage also in men's style. My second book was the same idea, but on Italy, and that was a fantastic odyssey because with Sonia, my wife, and with Lai Roblin, the photographer, the first book was photographed by Andy Julia, who is a French photographer, and my second book, I worked with Lai Roblin, who is a Canadian but who lives in Milan. Great guy, very interesting personality, used to be a supermodel before. Everybody who meets Lai Roblin think he's the kindest guy in the world. He is. He's a very kind and very supportive person. And I thought that with my wife Sonia that, we like to do things, we are a little bit extremists. I told you, we preachers. When you preach something, you have to believe in what you do. If you just explain technically how, honestly, if the subject of men's style was only about how a suit is made, I will not be here speaking to you today. I think that this subject is much broader, as I already told you. So today, people, you know how people write books? Most of the time, they just basically take a subject, they browse the internet, they give a few phone calls, they send a photographer, or they ask the people to send them photography, and they can put a book together in 6 weeks. I'm able. I'm a professional of this field. I could have put this book together in 2 months. But we wanted with Sonia to do it the old-fashioned way. Like, I don't know, like Ernest Hemingway would have done, like John Fante would have done, like people like that would have done. They will immerse themselves on what they were writing. So we decided to do it the fashion way, the old-fashioned way, that is to say, go in the country and go and visit atelier after atelier, tailor after tailor, have a contact with them, have dinners with them. That was difficult. The only thing we suffered a lot in Italy was to remain fit, because we had massive dinners, hundreds of them, I can't even count, thousands of coffee. We've been literally digging into the Italian style, and we had this incredible challenges. How can we speak about men's style in Italy without speaking about Armani, without speaking about Versace, without speaking about these big names, Prada, who are the most, Dolce & Gabbana, who are the most famous name in the world? No. We wanted to speak about the people who were actually crafting the men's style, not people who were selling the men's style. And so The Italian Gentleman is a book who is a study, and I think it's a personal journey inside this incredible country, and its incredible input into the elegance of man in the world. We're very proud because both my books has been re-edited. The Parisian Gentleman has already been re-edited in a compact edition, which is for a coffee table book, as if a normal book is re-edited in a hardback, from a hardback to a paperback. So that means you saw, I think only 5% of the books in the world make it to a paperback edition. It means it's a success. So it's a new edition. And I just knew a few days ago that The Italian Gentleman was such a success that the publisher is already preparing the compact edition of The Italian Gentleman that should be released in the spring of 2019. So we're very proud. But it means something. It's not only about us and our pride. It's not only about being so, proud of ourselves that we achieved something big. No. I think it's more profound than this. It's just a proof that this world needs to protect its artisan. This world needs to protect the people who create beauty. This world needs something different than mass marketing. This world needs something. You know why these books are successful? Because people discover behind what we call fashion that there's some people, some real people. We don't speak about brands, we speak about people. And when you visit a place like Renato Ciardi in Napoli, when you visit a place like Gaetano Aloisio in Roma, or the Caraceni family in Milan, or Antonio Becariello in Napoli, I'm sorry, it's just the names are coming into my mind. You discover people who are doing a very difficult job, who are dressing the most elegant men in the world. And this is a human experience, you understand? It's way beyond the subject of clothes. It's really larger than life. It's spiritual. It's transcendental in the religious sense of the word. I'm a Christian. It's a secret for nobody. And I can now understand how this works, mixed with my faith, and how I preach, not in the religious way, but I preach in my way for a better world and for a more compassionate, and paradoxically, I found a lot of humility among these artisans. When you go in a basement where people are crafting, they hardly meet ends. It's difficult, it smells bad, they are working 10 hours, 12 hours a day for $100, and when you see this same piece of clothing resold for $6,000 in a high street department store in the USA, you say there's something wrong. And you want to protect these people, and you want to promote them. And we finding humility in this luxury world, because everybody thinks we work in luxury. No, come with us in Italy. Come with us in these basements. You're going to see some people who are working so hard from 5 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. These people are so humble. These people are so passionate. They dedicate their life to make other people shine. Well, think twice. That's a very, very noble art and a very noble profession that we want to promote and to protect. Every writer, every author, every artist, every singer, every director will answer the same thing to you. They mean the world to me, they mean everything. But most of the time, it's not always true. 3 days ago, 4 days ago, before the interview, I was in Tokyo, Japan. And one of my fans, and I'm always embarrassed with this word, it looks like I don't consider these people as my fans, even they probably are. I like people who like my job, who they just appreciate what I do. But I don't like this word fan. It means a little bit shallow, and I don't want to have this sense of superiority. And so I met one of my admirers, somebody who've been reading my books, following our Sartorial Talks, following our writing on Parisian Gentleman and all of the activities, our Instagram, our Facebook page, all this community of probably, I don't know, 250,000 people to 500,000 people maybe all around the world. And I met this young man. He's from Melbourne, Australia, originally from Malaysia. And I decided to spend 1 hour with him and to invite him to have a sandwich together and to share a bottle of wine. And he was totally surprised, because he said, normally you say, don't meet your hero. That's a saying to say, never meet your hero, because you most of the time disappointed. Well, in our case, I think he was not disappointed. So I don't want to brag and to say that I'm very close to my readers and followers. But the fact is that with Sonia, we try, and it's part of our spiritual education, it's part of our faith, that generosity and this impulsion of giving more than taking, this sense of humility. And believe me, in the area in which we work, humbling yourself is quite difficult. Because whether we like it or not, the world of elegance is a world of ego most of the time. And when you start to have a public, whether I don't consider myself as famous, I'm a name in a niche. Okay, a few people stop me in the street, but it's still it's a small community compared to an actor or a rock star. But it's still very complicated to remain humble. And I consider this as a trial for me, and I know my wife is the same, so that we have to remain humble. So my fans, my followers, my readers, it's a 10 years process. You understand? We built this community after 10 years of work, day after day. Today, people come on Instagram, on Facebook, they buy some fake follow, but that's another story. But even if they don't, they think they can make it in 3 weeks. They think they can, just by showing a few pictures, and they can make it and become an influencer. I'm not an influencer. I despise this word. I don't want to influence anybody. I don't want to be, how do you say that, a kind of a star. No, I don't want to be. And I mean what I want to say. If I'm an inspiration for people, I prefer that. If I can bring to my followers and readers and people who like what we do, and Sonia, my wife, she has her own public. She has a lot of people following her on Instagram and everywhere. I think we have the same point of view on that. We are blessed. We have the immense privilege to have a little bit of success so that we can live. We can make a living out of our passion. Can you believe that? We can make a living out of our passion. And only for that, we are so thankful. We understand it can stop tomorrow morning. You understand? So we remain, our feet grounded, on the ground, and we continue doing what we do, but we want to share. My greatest joy is when I meet, as you say, a fan or an admirer or follower, and share a little bit of time. Sometimes it's difficult because for the book signing events I do sometimes, we have several hundred people coming. It's difficult, but we try to spend time. And more, we also try to answer to all the comments on YouTube. It's a long work. Sometimes we have 300, 400 comments late. And it's not because we are arrogant, it's just because sometimes we don't have the time to do that. So that's my answer. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit long on this one, but it means the world to us. Of course it means the world to us, because without our readers, we don't exist. And without the people buying our books, we don't exist. We don't eat, we don't make a living, we can't travel, we can't live. So we are very thankful for that, and we hope it's going to continue. But for that, we have to continue and continue. It's not a given. You have to be good. You have to study. And most importantly, you have to tell the truth.